Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host,
Hello,
Jillian
my friends.
Leslie.
Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie. I'm a blogger, serial entrepreneur. Many of you know that we at Team MiloTree have launched MiloTree Cart, which is an easy payment tool for you guys to sell digital products. I had to share this interesting tidbit. If you listened to episode 235 with my friend Carrie Forrest from Clean Eating Kitchen, she emailed me yesterday and I just wanted to share. She said, "Hi Jillian, I did a big push of my recorded clean eating workshop and made over $400. I love adding this extra revenue stream to my bottom line, plus offering value to my audience." This was just a recording of one of her live workshops, and boom, she went back to her audience and sold it again, and with a couple of emails was able to make $400. This is my hope for you. This is why we built MiloTree Cart. If you want to get started selling digital products, I recommend you start like Carrie with a simple 1-hour paid workshop. And if you go, "Oh no, I don't have an idea," no problem. Go to milotreecart.com/workshop idea and get my worksheet to just help you come up with your idea. Today on the podcast, I am interviewing my friend, Brandon Gaille. You might know him from the podcast, The Blogging Millionaire, where he shares real actionable tips to grow your traffic. He also has come out with a product called RankIQ that many of you use, and we get into why it is so useful for finding low competition keywords that you can rank for. That is the strategy he has used to grow his blogs to the millions. And he shares his story of how he went from disabled, really sick, to blogging, to teaching, and now to RankIQ. If you're trying to grow your traffic, I highly recommend this episode. So without further delay, here's my interview with Brandon Gaille. Brandon, welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast. It is so nice to have you.
It's nice to be
I
here.
have been a fan of yours for a very long time. I think you started your podcast way before I started mine, because yours I discovered and I was like, "Ooh, there are some blogging podcasts out there," and started listening. So I have been a fan for many years.
Yeah, we're one of the few podcasts between you and I still standing and consistently putting out content. A lot of people will start it for a while and then they'll stop doing it. I know ProBlogger had had one of the top blogging podcasts for a while, but like 3 years ago, they just stopped completely. So
you and I were the last women standing.
Yours, mine, Eat, Blog, Talk are a couple of the three that have been doing it consistently for several years.
Yes. And can I ask you, as a podcaster, what do you like about podcasting?
Well, I like teaching, and my podcast yours is interview based, and you're pulling out the tips and tactics and having a conversation. I'm a little bit more introverted, and so mine is, I decided to not do interviews and just focus on teaching specific tactics that are less than 10 minutes, so that a blogger can go in there and listen to a show and have something to take back to their blog and apply that, and teaching these different tactics to help bloggers get what they get better rankings or better success. That's what it's all about.
I agree. I feel like for me, I'm a lifelong learner. It's what gets me up. And so being able to hear from people who are doing interesting things is so fascinating for me, or to hear how people have grown big businesses or whatever. So I feel like I'm learning along with my audience.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your story. You started blogging. I've read about you, and you've had a variety of different kind of businesses, but that you got into blogging and it really connected with you, and you've been able to grow really big blogs, or your really big blog. Can you share how you got into blogging and what this experience has been like for you? And then we're going to get into the tool that you created to help other bloggers.
Well, it really started with my health having problems. So in my mid-20s, I had a very successful multi-million-dollar company that we had a bunch of different content websites that were tied into affiliate programs. And we were getting those to rank in the first position of Google for credit report, credit cards. And then I started to have these different health problems pop up. And within about a year or two, I started losing the ability to think, and my mental cognition was starting to fail. And my two partners pushed me out of that business. And within 2 years of getting pushed out of the business, everything that I had made had gone to zero. I was hanging on to the fact that I was so successful in business, but I wasn't coming to terms that I didn't have the mental ability to make good decisions. So when you try to invest in a small business and run it, when your brain's not there, it can go bad pretty fast. So within 2 years, I went to zero. And fortunately, I met my wife to be at that time, and she was there by my side trying to help me get the right doctors to figure out what was going on.
And what was it that you were diagnosed with? Because I'm sure the audience is going, what is this?
It took about 2 years of seeing 100 different specialists, having every test you can think of, from bone biopsies to all kinds of weird tests, to everything they could do for my brain, to my kidneys, you name it. They were just they knew that I was, my health was fading fast, but they couldn't figure it out. And one doctor was kind of on the fringe, and he identified me as having a rare form of what's called dysautonomia, where basically your fight and flight system is super responsive, over responsive, and causes all types of issues. But the root problem that it was causing my mental ability to be disabled at that point was that I was being woken up a little short burst, not enough to get up out of bed, but hundreds of times through the night. So I wasn't getting any sleep. And I had basically a 6-year sleep deficit. And I think anybody knows, once you go without a couple of nights sleep, it's hard to even drive a car, better yet do anything else. And to go 6 years, I got on the right medication group, and I started sleeping close to 20 hours a day for a good period of time just to catch up. And fortunately, my mind came back online, and it took me another 2 or 3 years to be healthy enough to start my own business. And I got back in it, just SEO services and kind of being a consultant. Ended up having one employee, and after a year or two, it just wasn't stable enough, because if something happened to me again, my family wouldn't have financial stability. If I wasn't there, it goes to zero. And one evening at the end of the workday, my employee came to me and asked me for advice on their blog. And after reviewing their blog, that's when I was just like, I need to do this. So I set out, I guess it took about 3 months of just looking at the highest traffic blogs on the internet. Back then, there was this thing called Alexa ratings, and you could see the top 100,000 websites based upon Alexa ratings. So I focused in on the top 20,000 and looked at all these different blogs and how they were getting traffic. And once I was done with the research, one thing stood out above them all. And there were these really poor designed websites with thin content. So content like 200, 300 words for blog posts, not doing a great job of covering it all. But they were getting a tremendous amount of traffic. And what I noticed was everything they wrote on were these low competition keywords that the other blogs weren't going after. So they could rank #1 on Google with poor content and never have to worry about being outranked, because no one else was writing these words. And that was the aha moment for my blog. And I launched it in 2013 in April. And I started with 60% of my posts being on low competition keywords. And within 4 months, I was at 100,000 monthly visitors. Wow. And then at the 12-month point, I did a deep dive in my Google Analytics and identified that 98% of my traffic was coming from the 60% of the posts that I wrote on low competition keywords. So at that time, I was completely all in and increased it to 90% of my posts being only on low competition keywords. And I kept that up, and we passed 1 million monthly visitors about a year later. and ended up expanding to two more blogs, applying the same principles. And even as the blogs have grown to high domain authority, my brandongaille.com is, I think, a 78. Even when it's high domain authority, I still are going after the low competition keywords, because these are the ones that my blog can rank number 1 for, as opposed to number 8 for something that's higher competitive. And the difference between a number 1 and a number 8 ranking is 10 times the traffic. And also, if you're doing it for small business, you're going to get 10 times the conversion rate. So that number 1, number 2, 3, that's where you want to be. So even if you're an established blogger, you want to go after those low competition keywords, because you'll be able to rank for those, and sometimes within weeks, and have that number 1 listing, and not have to worry about always getting outranked by someone else trying to do a better job.
It's funny. So our site that we started in 2009 is called Catch My Party, and we have user generated content. And what we learned very early on was we wouldn't rank for number 1 for mermaid parties, because we couldn't compete with Party City and Target and all of these sites. But we could rank, or what we were ranking for was mermaid rainbow second birthdays, that it was the long tail keywords that, and because we have a lot of content, it was all of those little teeny things that we could rank for that gave us a lot of traffic. So that was our strategy as well from the get-go. So I think that it feels counterintuitive, which is, I want to rank for apple pie. I have the best apple pie recipe. And it's like, no, you get to go after whatever. And this is where having a niche can really benefit you.
Absolutely. You want to know your niche, and you want to go after the things that you can definitely rank for, and rank for easily high up in the Google rankings. As I said, number 1, you're going to get there faster. Last thing you want to do is to spend time on writing that apple pie post and spend money on the photography and getting it all perfect and getting no traffic. It's just a waste of time. And at the end of the day, bloggers, we only have so much time. And most of us are we're working from our house. It's just us. We're writing the blogs. We're making the images. We're putting up the Pinterest pins. Everything is being done. And the last thing you want to do is invest all that time in a high quality post that you never will rank for.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, okay, you lean in to creating blogs, right? So this guy asks you, can you help me on my blog? You go, wait, I see an opportunity here. You start building your own blogs using low traffic keywords that you can rank for quickly. And then you decide you're starting your podcast. And then how does RankIQ come into that?
Well, what happened is I started my podcast, and as I was building a group of people that were following me, I offered a course. And so if you like my podcast, you liked what I was doing, then I had this course for $499. And as people were coming into the course, the big thing that I wanted to teach was my process for identifying low competition keywords, because that's where I was getting the majority of my traffic. And I started getting feedback from about 50% of the people taking my course telling me that they just can't figure out how to do this. And they don't understand how to work the tool or to do the calculations that I'm doing. So I kept on going back and making it better and simplifying it. And after 2 years, I got it down to these small 5-minute modules, like 7 of them, that just simplified it, that made it real easy with the equations, that had a spreadsheet, you just drop it in. But still, that 50% of bloggers, it was just too complicated.
Could we talk though a little bit?
That's just the problem. There is the majority of the keyword tools at that time, you have to do these calculations. And what happens if you don't do the calculations, you end up just looking at the keyword volume on the initial search, and you're not actually going into the analytics of the top 10 rankings and seeing how many backlinks they have. There's all these other things you have to do, and it just overwhelms them. And because most bloggers aren't technical, and most SEO tools are made for SEO experts that are working for Fortune 5,000 companies, and because that's where they get most of their money from. And bloggers, they're not willing to separate themselves from hundreds of dollars because they don't have it. And so there's not a lot of effort into making it simplified. They're tailoring it for that type of audience. So at that point, I just said, there's got to be another way. And that's when I started laying out the foundation of RankIQ, where I would create a system where I would be able to find all the low competition, high traffic keywords for the different niches and hand pick them, and then run them through my algorithms and score them in a simple way, so that a blogger doesn't have to be overwhelmed or have user error because they're focusing on the wrong things, or just have to spend 100 hours finding enough keywords for a year's worth of a planner. Instead, they could go to a place, they could choose their niche. And once they choose their niche, they've got a list of all the low competition, high traffic keywords. And all they have to do is choose one and start writing their post. So that was the initial foundation that I wanted RankIQ to be. And at the same time, I was using a content optimization tool called ClearScope that was really cutting down the amount of time it was taking to write a blog post. And it would give me the topics. I put in my keyword and it would give me all the topics that Google liked the most that I should cover in my post, which allowed me to make an outline pretty quickly and then cover everything that I needed to cover and have the most comprehensive content out there for that keyword. So it cut down the time I needed to write, and also was giving me more rankings and more long tail rankings. But at the time, the lowest price for that service was $399 a month. Today, they've moved it down to $199, but still way too expensive. So I wanted to have the keywords there that people can choose from. And I also wanted them, once they choose a keyword, to be able to run a report that shows them the topics that they need to cover so they can quickly come up with an outline, and then have a content optimizer that grades them based upon how many topics they covered. So if they're not covering enough topics, they can easily cover a few more topics to get that grade high enough to make sure that they can compete with the other posts on the first page rankings.
I want to take a quick break to say that since this episode is all about working smarter when it comes to creating blog posts, if you have not grabbed my blog post checklist, I recommend you do. This will help you as you outline and structure your blog post. So you can grab that at milotree.com/blog post checklist. And now back to the show. So let's talk. I want to talk about two things. I want to just walk through the product. Like I wanted to talk about, say, my use case and how I came up with something using your tool, and how we wrote the post. And then I want to talk about how people need to use your tool for success and some of the pitfalls they can fall into if they're not really being intentional in their writing. So for example, we just wrote a post on Catch My Party, and I used your tool and I searched, I saw that there was an opportunity for minion cakes. So minion parties are a big deal on Catch My Party, and there's no blog post necessarily that's like really doing well for minion cakes. And we have so many photos of minion cakes, and we decided to do a roundup. And what I did was I went into RankIQ. I noticed that this was a low competition keyword. I ran the report by clicking the button to run the report, and it lists out, maybe 150 keywords, topics, that kind of thing. And I literally I know I can download that, and then I give it to my assistant and I say, go run with this and use the topics you are providing to guide us in our content creation. And we've had tremendous success. We've had tremendous success using this tool, using this guide as a way to say, oh, we need to cover this aspect of minion cakes that we would never have thought of. But because you provide that to me, I know, oh, here's how we outline the post. Here are the main things we need to hit. Here's the length of the post, that kind of thing. Like you give me tremendous guidance in the writing of the post.
Yeah, everything's laid out to be very simple. And it's also laid out to keep new users or people that don't understand blogging, maybe it's their first time, they're just getting into it. to not make the mistakes of just stuffing a bunch of keywords into an article. Now,
wait, could we go back? Wait, could we stop for 1 second and talk about what that is? So back in the day, Google was not sophisticated, and people found ways to kind of game the system by stuffing keywords, like making them invisible to readers, but yet they were on the page. And there were lots of ways to manipulate the system. And one of them was, keyword stuffing. Google got smart and said, no, you can't do that anymore. So would you speak to what keyword stuffing is and how people can avoid that?
Well, keyword stuffing is when you're just putting in keywords to reach maybe the minimum amount that it should be used, or just trying to put a bunch of long tail keywords in there so that you rank for it, but you're actually not creating content around those areas. And what almost 99% of the time, if you were to if you read your post after you did this, it would sound completely unnatural. It wouldn't make sense. It's just like these words are just getting stuck in there. It wasn't naturally written. What you want to always do with any post, no matter what tool that you're using, you want to come up with your outline based upon the topics you want to cover, and then you write your post on those outlines. And you're not just taking your post that you've written and then saying, okay, I'm going to stuff all these posts in there. And a lot of new users that use some of the other tools out there, they see that it'll tell them this keyword on average is used 11 times in the post on the first page of Google. And they just take that word and they make sure that it's in there 11 times, and it just doesn't come across natural. And that can lead to signals that it's the keyword ratio is off, and then a human element will come in once the Google algorithm tags it, and they'll read your post and say, yeah, this is keyword stuffing. Now, what I decided early on, because all the other tools out there are made by software engineers, and there's no tool out there that has legitimately been made by a blogger. The closest thing would be Neil Patel's tool, because he's had a blog. But the majority of them, when it comes to telling you the amount of keywords for content optimizers, they'll actually tell you this is the recommended number of times, whether you're using a plugin for SEO and WordPress, or you're using an actual content optimizer tool. So what I decided to do was not put any recommendations of the number of times, so that people wouldn't get confused and try to put that in there. In addition to that, our grader only gives you a positive score for the first time that you use it. So if you were to try to put a keyword in there 3, 4 times or 9 times, your score is not going up beyond that first time. So you're getting scored based upon the number of topics that you're using overall to make that post comprehensive, as opposed to the number of words that you're placing in there. But no matter what tool that you use, you've got to remember, create your outline first from the topics or keywords that your tool is telling you to cover, and then use that outline to create a post. And if you use a grader after you create the post, then don't just stuff a bunch of extra words in there to reach your grade. Look for the topics that you did not cover and create a paragraph of content on that topic. And that's going to give you not only a better chance of ranking, it's also going to allow you to cover more long tail keywords. And when you cover additional topics and long tail keywords, you have the featured snippet that makes up a lot of SEO traffic that comes your way. And pretty much 95% of all featured snippets are paragraphs between 40 and 50 words in length. So if you're constantly creating these 40 to 50 word paragraphs on these new topics, not only will you be doing everything the right way and creating better content for the user experience, but you'll be putting yourself in position to rank for featured snippets for all these different long tail keywords.
And let's just, for my audience, explain what the featured snippet is. That's the thing when you do a Google search and it shows up at the top, usually with a question and an answer right there. And that's important real estate if you can get it.
Yeah, the link's right below the answer. And what happens is it drives a lot of traffic. It's referred to as position 0 in the SEO industry, and Google actually calls it position number 1 with their employees, but it's what shows up as a featured snippet, which is a quick answer. And some people will take that answer and be done with it. But there's a big portion of people that will click into your website because that link's right there. So it drives a lot of extra traffic.
And can you explain? Okay, so your grader means I write my post and then I copy it and then I paste it into the grader, because I haven't used that feature. And then you're going to score my post on how well I've been able to cover these specific topics that you're recommending. Is that the correct way to describe it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and walk through how RankIQ is used with a travel blog, for example. That'll help people understand it. So a travel blogger that is a Texas travel blogger, they log into YouTube or they log into RankIQ, and then they'll go in and they'll choose from the drop down the travel Texas category. And the travel Texas category has approximately 2,400 keyword phrases that are low competition, high traffic. They go in there and they pick out one that's on things to do in Houston. And next to things to do in Houston, there's a button that says run report. They click that run report. It takes 2 minutes to generate the SEO report. That SEO report shows up. It gives you the recommended content grade that you want to have at the top and the recommended word count. Now, word count is not a factor with the Google algorithm, but it gives you an idea how comprehensive that post needs to be. A question answer post or a recipe post might be between 500 and 900 words, whereas a post on SEO tips is going to be closer to 5,000 or 6,000 words. So that gives you an idea of how much work it's going to take. Sometimes when you run a report on a word, you might say, well, this is more work than I want to, that's cut out for me. Or at the same time, you might realize, hey, all the other posts are doing 500 to 700 words. I don't want to overdo it here. I want to get straight to the point, give them the answer, because that's what Google is scoring highest and pushing people up in the rankings. Underneath those two recommended scores are the topics to cover, ranked by most important. And that for that things to do in Houston, they're going to see anywhere from 50 to 70 places and attractions that are covered by the top ranking posts in Google for things to do in Houston. And they'll take that and quickly turn that into an outline of all the different attractions that they're going to cover in their list post. In addition to that, it has another section, which is the title analysis, and it tells you the keywords that are used the most in the top ranking titles. Whether you use our tool or you do it by hand, it's really important to determine the frequency of keywords, because these keywords typically have the highest click-through rate. And the click-through rate is a main factor of the Google algorithm. And by using those words, it gets people to click to your post. Number one, you got to get the algorithm to index it. Number two, you've got to get the keywords that people will click on. And then you've got to answer their question and get them on your post. And ideally have them back out to Google and go search for something else, because that shows Google that you answered their question and gave them information.
Yes.
At that point, you have all the information you've created, your outline. You take that outline that you created from those top topics for things to do in Houston, you write your post. When you're done writing your post, then you drop it in the content grader. Content grader will grade you up to an A++ down to an F. And if you're at A++ or you're at the recommended grade that you need to, you're ready to go and you can publish that post. If you're not quite there, on the right-hand side, it will tell you the other attractions and things to do in Houston that you haven't covered in that post. And then you can cover those with another paragraph. And that way you've reached that target grade. And then at that point, you can publish your post. But that's typically how it works. It's kind of just an all-in-one simple flow that takes you from choosing your keyword to finishing out your post so that you have the best chance of competing with the most comprehensive post for that specific topic.
For me, what you do is you raise things that I wouldn't have thought of. So let's say we're doing adult party themes, which we've used it for, and it will say scavenger hunt. And, when we're brainstorming, let's say we didn't think of scavenger hunt, but you're saying scavenger hunt, or like your Houston post, maybe there's an attraction you wouldn't have thought of, but you're bringing that to mind for me as a blogger. And so in a weird way, you're kind of doing some of the legwork that I then don't have to do. But people who are using this tool, remember, write for humans. Do not think that you can pull a fast one on Google, because the truth is Google is looking at humans and seeing how humans are liking your content.
Yeah, we don't use any type of AI content generator. It's just we're scoring based upon the number of topics that you covered to make sure that you have the most comprehensive post. It's not about gaming the system or writing content. At the end of the day, it's up to the blogger to write the content. And one of the mistakes I see a lot of first-time bloggers make, they don't want to write the post, and they're just thinking, okay, I'm going to go to Fiverr and get someone to do it, or maybe I'll find some tool that will generate this post for me, and then I don't have to deal with the writing. If you want to be successful as a blogger, I've rarely seen anyone have success that outsource their writing. You've got to be in there and understand how everything works, from plugins for WordPress to title optimization to writing your content. And it doesn't matter whether you're a great writer or not. The best blogs are in conversational tone. So just be yourself and cover the topic and act like you're talking to your mom, your dad, a really good friend, and give them advice. And then you're going to rank high.
Yeah. And solve their problem.
Yes.
Okay, Brandon, if people want to learn more about you, learn about RankIQ, that kind of thing, learn about your podcast, where should they go?
Well, you can go to rankiq.com. That's where you can sign up for the service. And then I have the podcast, The Blogging Millionaire. And The Blogging Millionaire it works complementary with RankIQ, because the way I do it, I cover it in different series. So I did a series on how to update old posts to maximize your rankings and to get those back to the top of Google. I have a series on titles. I have a series on how to publish more posts in the same amount of time using simple things like changing your keyboard from a normal keyboard to a mechanical keyboard that allows you to type 10% faster. You type 10% faster, you publish 10% more posts, you get 10% more traffic. Just simple things.
I didn't know that about mechanical keyboard. My daughter makes them. She's into mechanical keyboards. I didn't know you could type faster on a mechanical keyboard.
Yeah, there's just, when it comes, that series in particular focused on a study of the cyclist in Great Britain, and they were the worst cycling team in the history for 100 years. And that the person came in and he just looked at every single thing that had to do with the cycling, from the type of
pillows
seat they had. Yeah. Getting the right pillows, even mattresses. They found the mattress that each of their team slept best on, and they shipped those mattresses to the hotels where the competitions were. But what they found was by doing 20, 30 things and getting 1%, 2% here, within 3 years, they became the best team. They had never won a Tour de France. They won 3 out of 4 Tour de France's. They pretty much swept the gold medals for 4 Olympics in a row, all for making these little percent. And James Clear covers this in Atomic Habits also, which is a great book. But the point is, with publishing posts, it's just about doing all these little things, using the right keyboard, the right mouse, even the right chair that keeps you from getting a sore back, because you're going to be sitting a long time. And so that series covers that. But all those series helps you become a better blogger and complements RankIQ. So definitely recommend going to the podcast to get all that.
Well, Brandon, you have shared so much, and definitely you out there in this community, check this stuff out, because it's real. Like, this is how you are able to up your game without trying to, fake it, find a shortcut. Like, this is the shortcut. This is the real shortcut.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta find the right tools, and typically as a blogger or whatever business that you're in, you want to try to find a tool that's designed just for you. And that's a great thing about today with businesses. There's a lot of choices out there, whenever you choose your tool, try to find something that's made just for you, and that's going to give you the best results. And then don't try to use the tool the wrong way. Use the tool the right way. And one thing that has stood the test of time with Google, with all the different algorithms, great content on low competition rises to the top, because what Google wants, they want to answer all these questions. And if there's not content out there that's answering it well, and you create it, they want to push that content right to the top, because that makes them better. So
Absolutely.
Focus on low competition keywords, write great content, and success will follow.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
I hope you guys like this episode. I love that Brandon is all about helping bloggers grow. And his podcast, if you're not listening to it, I recommend you do. I'm always looking for people on the internet who can say, go this way, and I can trust them. And I really think that Brandon is that person. And if you're looking for a tool to help you identify low competition keywords, definitely check out RankIQ. And to recap some of the links I've shared, you want to get your feet wet selling digital products, go to milotreecart.com, sign up for a free account, get up some free sales pages, and see whether your audience will buy what you are selling. If you want to start with a paid workshop but aren't sure what to teach, get my free worksheet to help you come up with an idea at milotreecart.com/workshop idea. And if you still have questions or need some guidance, get on a free 15-minute call with me by going to milotreecart.com/meet, and we can meet. Thank you to all of you for listening to the episode, and I will see you here again next week.